This is Family Electric Ghost, and we're live on our Facebook channel with Fuzzlove Band, and you guys are from the Chicago area, right?
Yep.
And you guys got a brand new record, just came out, Countless Wasted Days. We talked to you like a year ago, maybe even more, when you guys were working toward this. I know you were running like a campaign to get the second album out, and now it's out. It's on Bandcamp. I've listened to it on YouTube. And we're gonna actually talk about it today with all your fans. So like it must feel good that you actually got the project done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, since the beginning of all the music stuff, we've been planning for like a fairly year. So it feels really good to have it done out in the world.
That's cool. So what I wanted to do is I actually have a YouTube, the YouTube version of the album. I wanted to play like one track, and then maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll go through some of the tracks, but maybe so the fans can get an intro to your work. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna seg over there. You can probably see it's coming up on the screen, and then I'm gonna mute you guys, and I'm gonna play like the first track, and then we'll cut back.
Off the path we go, not knowing why we never bother to take the time to see things from a new point of view. Another escape that's waiting for you, but do you have patience to see it through? Relax, that's really all that you can do. You never really know how much there is to grow, but now I start to see the change that's inside me. Back on track, that's all you know, but do you think you'll really grow? The truth is only someone's point of view. But now there is to grow. But now I start to see the change that's inside
Oh,
Here you go. I'm back.
cool.
So that was Caterpillar, and you actually reference the countless wasted days in that song, in the lyrics, and that's pretty cool. So that's how it was good to open with that, because that kind of fits with the title. I really like what you guys are doing, because we've talked about this before. Like, I'm a big fan of progressive rock, a big fan, of jazz outfits like Sun Ra and Parliament Funkadelic, and I really enjoy the fact that you've got this kind of Chicago, horn section going on, and you got the longer than normal form in this day and age of the Spotify playlist. I really appreciate what you guys did with this song. It's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, we want to thanks.
You guys are a little bit light on the mic. Maybe you can get a little closer. I don't know if your mic's up.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Start the album off.
Yeah, it's a really great track. I mean, I know you guys. How long did it take you to do that song?
That was actually one of the first songs from that we wrote that we won a couple ago. It wasn't on the first album, we put it on this one. So that here, is actually really low over. And that kind of keep me in the title.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Hard question to ask. It's been a song that's kind of moved over the years. So.
That's cool. So that was actually an older song that you were able to, you didn't get on the first record and you got onto this record. Did you actually refine it more from the original version?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of you change things up, so we kind of sections over the years, things that different things that they did.
Yeah, if you're fading a little bit, maybe you gotta get closer again. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had visions made to it over the years to kind of get what you're now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool to have the longer form. That's like an 8-minute song or more. I think I was tracking it, but I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I do that with my own music. I do these long, like 9-minute, 10-minute songs. And in today's world, I mean, if you're a live band, it works. It's great because it's kind of like the jam band. It's got that Allman Brothers, got that Steely Dan feel. It's got a Chicago, like an early Chicago feel. The Chicago Transit Authority feel. And that's always good. The Pat Metheny group comes to mind. That kind of thing. I really appreciate the musicianship that went into it. There's tons of really awesome, memorable guitar licks, really good horn, really good drumming. Do you find it well, I guess I talked to you guys about this before, like where you come from, there's a lot of bands that actually still do work like what you're doing. But like in other types of scenes, it's like that this type of work is actually not as common.
Yeah, that's true. Chicago, various types of music all across the board. yeah, there's a change. They're not doing too much different than we are in problems. You know that can turn off. We're not too worried about kind of crowd or kind of doing what we do and funny people that.
Yeah, I think it's good that to bring that musicianship back to the table, and especially like with this whole COVID era, the fact that you guys were able to get this kind of record with live musicians, actually playing instruments, was that a challenge, or did you guys have a hard time putting this together? Since the last time we talked and this whole pandemic happened, did that like complicate the efforts to get this thing done?
Well, it's actually what steered us into it, because it wasn't really planned to record together until COVID. That's kind of what made us
Mm-hmm.
so. But as far as there's challenges, we to get and do what we need to do. We just kept rehearsing. Full band the whole time. Yeah, a lot of lessons. So, I mean, if anything,
Yeah. So I mean, that's awesome that you guys took that. I mean, I've been talking to a bunch of bands, during this whole COVID thing. It's actually kind of doubled down on podcasting and started branching out to this new video mode. And a lot of bands have actually taken this time, because they can't tour, to really focus on writing and focus on recording. So is that kind of like, that's kind of really, because you can't really do shows unless you do live streaming, and some bands have a hard time figuring out how to get that to work. So is it better that you take all your energy and actually focus on writing a project or putting a project together?
Yeah, definitely. We're not high stream kind of really feed off of by
Yeah, I think it's probably, it's just, I've kind of doubled down on that on myself. I'm in my recording studio. You can see, maybe a little bit, but yeah, I think everybody has just tried to focus. And I've talked to some people that actually went and learned new instruments, learned how to do more production. But did you guys you actually did this in a studio, or your own home studio, or you actually went to a physical studio to do it? Mm-hmm.
Really how much about the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're gonna really, you might as well
Yeah, I think it's always good to let a studio, recording engineer handle their work, and producers help you like craft it. But you guys pretty much have the song structures pretty much handled, right? Or do you let producers kind of focus what you're doing? Do you ever have a situation where your producer actually really changes your original idea, or do they just enhance what you do, what you wrote?
We don't have a producer. We have ourselves.
That's cool.
John is the guitar player. Really a lot of work on all the production side of same knowledge and all that. Yeah, we with our sound engineer a lot. What we for the most part know we're going more in the kind. We have everything worked out for otherwise we'd be in there for weeks. So yeah, that's like we kind of figured everything out beforehand.
rehearsing the whole album down.
We pretty much played these songs only like the last year.
Yeah, so that's why they're so tight. Hopefully something well in the next.
Oh yeah, it's very tight. I mean, what it feels really cool because it feels like you guys. I don't know if this is true, but it feels like you recorded it like as a band, not like it doesn't feel like it's overdubbed. It feels like it's actually kind of old school, like when you had like the Almonds come in, or Clapton with the Derek and the Dominoes. A lot of those tracks were recorded live, and then maybe they overdub stuff, but the bands actually were recorded playing, and then they had to go back and track it again, play it again. Maybe they punched in, punch out, but a lot of times they recorded fully as a band, which I think is one of the more organic, and I like the way it sounds when, the completed product. That song, is there's something about doing it that way that you can't get if you just, do something, on the DAW. You just.
No, I agree. And yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. This album was pretty much live. I mean, punched in more stuff. This one.
Mm-hmm.
First one was much more raw. Percussion album. This one did have more overdubs and layers.
Mm-hmm.
It did more overdubs. He could sound fresh.
Yeah.
Not as no. And the first one we come out, this one, it's all good to go. So.
But it still feels seamless. It still feels like the overdubs or the multi tracks on it really fit. It seems like it's well. Yeah, your songwriting has gone like wow. Like you guys have gotten tighter. The vocals are cleaner, and I love the imagery in the vocals. And it's a cool feel. It's probably not like, it's not the hip hop generation's taste. It's kind of like my generation. I mean, I'm
we're dying.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, big and sell, records or whatever. 3-minute hip hop track.
Yeah. Well, I've run into everybody wants me to do like a 2-minute so-called electronic track, but like I said, well, original electronic music is like Yes or Genesis, and that's like 10 minutes long. So I'm going back to like the original. So I totally agree with where you guys are, because like when I do electronic, it's like, well, maybe why is where I would go, but a lot of where I'm gonna go is like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Tangerine Dream. That's the kind of thing, like Funkadelic, doing some 10-minute workout. That's kind of like, if you're a keyboard player, I mean, why would you just want to do a 2-minute song? I mean, typically you want to stretch out. And I would think guitar players, you guys want to stretch out. Like the rock-oriented form, or even fusion jazz. I mean, we always want to stretch out. We don't want to get locked in. And that's really cool. I mean, these songs must be really awesome to play live when you get to play live. It just kind of feels like it's the kind of feel I like when I used to go see the Dead, or I used to go see the Who, or the Almonds, or I'd actually just sit there, and I'd go to 2 nights in a row for the Almonds to see the variation. And I can see you guys would probably be in that same kind of zone, because like if I saw you one night, the next night you probably do a little different.
Yes, yeah. We're talking about this. Each take you listen to will sound a little bit.
Well,
there's so much variation. Right. We it's a good blend. We run out off of it, and there's still a lot for problem that. So, we want to sound more. Like you mentioned, songwriting. Have more storytelling.
Yeah. This feels like, I enjoyed that song very much, and I'm glad you guys, like, you put it out on Bandcamp, which is probably one of the better artist, centered ways to do things, because I think that's important. Maybe we can talk about that, because, you're living in the streaming world, you get playlisted, right, and people don't really listen to your whole project. And when you have a project like this album, The Countless Wasted Days, isn't really something that's going to fit on a traditional 2021 playlist, you know. Not that you can't get on like maybe an indie rock playlist, but it's like you want to be able to go back. Like when I used to pick up an album, I always talk about this. I go pick up like Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. I want to listen to the whole thing. You know, I'm going to get the vinyl. I'm going to listen to. This is the kind of album that you put down. You're going to listen to the whole thing. And I like the way you put it on YouTube. You kind of put it like a vinyl. You know, the way the YouTube version of the album is, you want to sit there and listen to the whole thing. You know, and that's a cool strategy.
It kind of worked out that way. We didn't mean to. With Spotify and we kind of pushed Spotify. I don't know why. I think it's the most popular streaming service. But so we. So we're like, all right, we'll put it out on YouTube. Put it out on YouTube, and they'll just upload the same day.
Yeah.
So we put it on YouTube, and like you said, it makes you start again, and just through.
Yeah.
So pretty much everyone listened to it was through YouTube and played it all through. Only 40.
Yeah, I mean it's not crazy long, but I mean, I guess for the 2-minute crowd it's a little long, but
well, again, those people
they're not the ones you're going for anyway. You know, you're going for more like the music fan. I mean, like I'm the guy that goes gets the vinyl, you know, to get it because I'm like not that, you know, modern stuff doesn't sound good, but it's like I like the experience of the vinyl experience, and it's kind of like what your YouTube is. The YouTube version of your album gives me that same feel. It kind of gets me into the zone, and then that's what you want to feel. You know, it's like, to me, music is like a sound painting. I think I've talked about this before. Is like, and you get drawn into it, especially with longer form songs. You get to have your imagination as a music fan kind of take you where you want to go, and it just is. You know, I think you have to have that kind of length in a song to really engage a music, you know, fan, like somebody who's like more into like, I want to, you know, put my headphones on and I'm going to really listen to everything you're doing. And I'm not just using it because I'm going to jog or I'm going to, like, because there's so many people use music today, and I don't know if they're exactly music fans. They use music for other purposes, but it's like, it's not, they're not exactly like the hardcore fan.
Oh yeah, they're about 15 seconds.
Yeah, 15-second fan.
Yeah. I have a catchy picture in there.
It's gotta got that beat. You gotta have that. Yeah, it's got that banger beat. I mean, if I want to go to Fruity Loops, if I want to go to Fruity Loops and have Fruity Loops all day, it's like, okay, I'll go get some General Mills or something, you know. But I don't.
No disrespect. I mean,
no, I get it.
We listen to all the music, but we all vinyl. We have, you know, our artists grew up on, and that he influence on us. But we're just trying to pen the song.
No.
Like doing it looking at paint, you know. Just like until we feel like, you know. The dream down.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like in between, like you listen to the Almonds, right? The Almonds were famous for these real long, drawn out songs because they're a jam band. But then they come up with a song like Melissa, you know. So once in a while, a band is like, okay, we got to give the radio something. And I was watching some documentary on the Almonds. They were like, and their managers are like, well, we love you. You guys are a live band, but we don't have anything we can give the radio. And then, you know, Greg had Melissa, and he was sitting around with it forever. And then he finally, you know, after his brother died, he finally finished it. And then it was like, well, this is the one that actually kind of got them going, besides Blue Sky, but that's even longer. But it was the kind of radio thing they wanted. And it was still this long-form jam band that found a way to do that. And you know, there's examples of that. So if you guys like consciously thought, like in and that you one day you want to do a song like that, or you just like, well, we're gonna do what we want to do.
No, we did that, and that's why we emailed on there. Like less than 2 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Was the one who did Charlie Otto. Me and Nick were talking. Like pop song. So we do think of those things kind of not to contradict what we say, but I was like, we need to get something that could be friendly and catchy. So that's why we did that. We like to create contrast.
Yeah. That's what's good about the album format, because you're deeper into it. You could start it off with maybe a long form song, and then buried in it are songs that are maybe the radio friendly song, but you gotta discover it. And that's the whole process. It's a full thought. When you have an album, it's a full picture of a band. And what I like is the variation that the album lets you do, because you can put stuff on an album that's not meant to be a hit, but it's meant to be part of a cohesive idea of that record, whether it's a concept or not. But like even non-concept albums have a structure where that song fits in that collection of songs. So when you were putting these songs together, like you said, some of these songs are older. So did you consciously try to find songs that were going to fit the theme of like Countless Wasted Days? Because you have that name checked in the first song. But is that like something that you wanted to have that feel through the whole record? Is like, or which ones would work?
We weren't thinking too much from like a concept record. We actually decided on Countless Wasted Days after the fact. So there wasn't a whole general idea that it kind of just worked out. The songs do have a common theme of growing and overcoming. This is definitely like, I don't want to say redemption, but bands go through it, and we've gone through a lot of things. It's just like everyone does.
Yeah.
And we kind of just write time, things that are going on, and in that moment, but make it big enough where it's relatable.
Yeah.
The lyrics and the songs might mean something to me, but it can mean something to somebody else.
Yeah. I think that's the core of a songwriter. Like, you write something that's relatable, but it's always kind of personal. Like singer-songwriters, you take something out of your personal life and you're able to convey it in such a way, and it has maybe a different meaning to you than your fans, but it's relatable. It's like the feeling is relatable, and maybe it's not exactly, so your fan interprets it in a way that represents something in their life. Like when you listen to music, it's like art. You interpret something, you get an emotion out of it, and you can pick up on the feeling that the songwriter is conveying, and it triggers a memory and triggers a feeling. And that's what's really cool about music, is because you don't know what feelings that's triggering in your fans, but if they're digging it, it relayed. So even though it might have been deeply personal to you, it's still relayed in a way that was translatable. And I think that's what's really cool about music when it's deep. Deep. Why I like singer-songwriters rather than being able to talk to people who actually wrote their music. And it wasn't just like, not that the whole thing. I mean, Motown had all these great singers singing all these other people's songs, and that can work. But I've always had kind of an eye on everybody I interview tends to be not just the singer, but the actual writer of the song they wrote.
We're in the it's never been different in the music. You have a lot of artists that make the next hit. And that might have killed a lot of people, most of the general public. But I think there's a other side of that where that wants honesty and genuine. That's where we fall. That when you hear music that something our music isn't perfect. We don't all hit great notes sometimes, whatever. But on
Well, you're in a different. You're not like in that punk aesthetic. You're not like the Clash, or like that's cool because I think one cool thing is like what's interesting is like you've got this kind of roots rock, kind of horn tradition that is a little bit more, constructed. You have song construction, with not exactly music theory, but I mean you've got a little deeper than what somebody was doing like a punk rock band like the Ramones or something. There's an honesty in that kind of punk aesthetic, but there's also an honesty in the kind of construction you guys have, which is a little bit more thought maybe going into it, or maybe you just feel naturally about it. But I love all that type of stuff. I mean I'm a big fan of hip hop, and I like the hip hop comes from a guy like Earl Sweatshirt or something, or an MF Doom. That's when I see somebody's really doing something interesting. But then the jam bands, like I said, I've always loved jam bands. I've always loved bands that introduce horns. Because I started on like clarinet and sax, and then I couldn't figure out how to write like on a clarinet, so I switched to boards. Because I'm trying to bring my winds back into my music because I think it would be cool. But yeah, it's just like I think it's just the idea of honesty, like you were talking about, is really core in the singer-songwriter area in bands that do it themselves and do it yourself type of thing going on today. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this scene. Whether you're into techno or psytrance or I talk to all different types of people, but they're all doing it themselves. They're not on big labels. And I think that's where the honesty in the music is like, okay, you guys are passionate about what you do enough to want to do it yourself and really put something that's like heartfelt out. And I think that's why we do these programs, to give a place for you guys to be heard.
Feels really good to talk about our talking about music and that's what our life revolves around.
So for this album, because you can't like tour on it yet, are you guys able to like future plan anything? Because now the vaccines are coming and people are saying maybe by the summer venues are opening up. Are you guys seeing any opportunities to tour with this record?
Yeah, we actually have a show coming up in a few weeks. Chicago's kind of interesting. There's some places that are open. We're a little bit more than stuff. Where some people have open, wear masks and all that. And our early summer was actually we're fortunate enough to have some come on here. So yeah, we're fortunate enough to have things going on.
Oh, that's cool. Because like it feels like it was really interesting for me, because I'm a musician as well, but I got a booking agent like a month before the pandemic came in and locked everybody down, and I actually had this agent in like London that was trying to get me to like Berlin and to Sweden and all these places, and then it's like, oh, we're not taking any Americans. You can't leave. You can't go. So then it's like I've been totally like, okay, I'll just double down on podcasting and writing music and doing what I do. But yeah, I think it's going to start opening again. I'm starting to get some inquiries, but yeah, it's just finally it's getting some light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of artists who've been like, and I did a lot of venues have been like pushed to the edge. Some venues like in places like, yeah. In the Northeast, I mean, their venues are gone, and I don't know how they're going to come back. But it's like we got less places to play, and yeah, it's just a hard thing. But I think people have just taken this time to write. But like, let me get back into the album. So we played the first track. What's your favorite track to play on this record? Like as a band, if you're going to play it something live, which track is the one that you like to actually play live?
I think that's kind of like asking Which one's your favorite kid? I mean,
Okay.
my mom can answer that. but yeah, I mean, I enjoy it all. And kind of being in band, I kind of refuse. I don't like. If I don't like it, okay. Let's not play this anymore. I don't know, Mr. Miserable. I think kind of vibe. Fun. I like bump. Sometimes we get license rounds. Got a lot of improv.
Yeah, it's hard for it's like you write so many songs as a songwriter, and somebody asks you what's your favorite song. If you got like hundreds of songs, but it's like a lot of people always are like whatever song the fans like the most, but it's like to me it's like it's usually like what's the song I actually like, but my fans might like this one, but then like the one I like to play is the one nobody plays.
Right. Well,
but
it's one of those things that you gotta. Try to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you got to please a specific people.
Mm.
We try to play everyone will like,
Yeah.
And that's why too. We wanted to have that short song. Okay. Not everyone wants to do 8-9 minutes long.
Yeah. So you got to have something.
Poppy too, yeah. So throw that one on, and it's catchy. Short, so then it kind of makes you play it over again. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's just the whole nature. All since the music business started is like where's the hook, where's the beat, and no matter what genre, like what is the one that's gonna get people like, it's the memorable ones, the one that people like are gonna want to go back to. It's kind of like, Prince's curse on Purple Rain is like, he really didn't like to play that much anymore. He had so much other work that was going in so many other directions, but the hardcore fans always want to hear that. Mm-hmm. And there was a period like when he changed his name, that he like refused to play it. He just wouldn't play it. He just went around. He's like, I'm not playing it at all.
That's common for a lot of bands. Nirvana. Didn't want to play. Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah, Kurt got sick of that.
That's why I wonder, like Radiohead.
You hardly ever hear him play that anymore.
They never.
They hardly ever play that song again. I mean, I love Radiohead. I like what they do. Sometimes they go on stage and they're like, I'm an analog geek, right? So they go up on stage with all these Euroracks and they're noodling on all this esoteric stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. And then somebody's yelling like, I want to hear Creep.
Yeah.
And they're like,
that's what I mean. This can't everybody all the time. What I mean, we I think that you a crowd of I've seen bands that just same thing or don't change it up.
Yeah. They're stuck on their set list.
But it's not being a change. You have to do different things. Like you were saying, don't know what's going to happen. The bank can sound different every night, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
There's a real excitement and just energy about that. Staying in the crowd, bands come out with next.
Yeah.
Like a cool show.
Do you guys like one thing I liked what Dylan used to do is like Dylan had like alternate lyrics to like all his songs, right? So I would go see a Dylan and he was doing his Blood on a Well, he may be forgotten, but I have all the bootlegs, so there's some of them I kind of knew. And so it's like he would go and do Blood on the Tracks, and he had like multiple versions of Idiot Wind. Mm-hmm. They have different lyrics, and I have like the boots of them. And then one time I actually saw him doing it, and he actually pulled the lyrics from one of the boots. He actually ran like a totally different like aspect of the storyline. Because all his songs are like stories, and he had different variations on what was going to be the character, what they were doing, and he ran a whole different like set of lyrics. And I just think that's kind of interesting. Like sometimes, you write a song, you got multiple versions of the song, and then it's like, okay, well, if I go out tonight, I'm gonna actually try the original demo because I'm kind of feeling that, and I'm just gonna do the lyrics from that rather than the one that everybody knows. Do you ever like go like that, or do you just kind of go with whatever you feel?
We do a little bit in our own way. We try to change things up, not only for but for ourselves. Just playing the same all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we'll change up all the jam sections. So the song could just sound completely different. There's times where I've, done ad-libs or improv work. Just having fun and interaction. Our show's for magic.
That's that's what I'm, because there's a whole thing today. We're kind of like, it's not exactly a Milli Vanilli situation. If you remember, like these guys, those are the guys that got caught with their tape got stuck, and they were lip syncing, and they weren't even really singing. Their tape got stuck because they were more like dancers that happened to sing, and then they got stuck in the. I couldn't understand. Okay, if you're really a dancer that happens to sing, and then you do this whole routine. I can understand the athleticism of having to dance and sing and actually have it sound good. I can see why you might lip sync. But the whole thing today with people who have so many backing tracks, they're like locked into the groove, and they can't change their song, and so they kind of play the same way, the same set list every night because it's coming off their DAW. And they're doing like Ableton Live, and they're like stuck in that, and they don't deviate from it. And it's somewhat, to me, it's kind of like if I wanted to hear the record, I would just hear the record. I wouldn't go to the show.
That's how I feel. I mean, again, it's different. People like seeing JPs or whatever. And like you were saying, like I understand it. I was always kind of especially with like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Who would pretty much always crack. Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I would kind of rather hear Michael sing than
I'd rather have some mistakes. That's what I liked about Prince is like he could do the dance and he could do the stagecraft, but he actually was like, he would actually do it. And so whether or not it came out perfect, he didn't exactly care because he'd just go with it. And so it proves that you could be this big pop star and not have to lip sync the song or stay totally on it. He never played Kiss like the record. He never played it. He always would change it because like the way the record was like this point in time experiment, and then he never tried to replicate it. Even like Dove's Cry, he never really played those tracks exactly like the record because he's like, that's the record version. The way I'm going to do it live is different.
more of the way of play guitar. Well, his live shows were definitely a bit more on the music side. Like Michael was like a big show.
Yeah, he's a performer. He's more of a performer.
Yeah, performer. And that's cool too. I think it's good when coming out with a cool show. But I like how Jack White.
Yeah, Jack White.
Like he doesn't come out with just a set list. He doesn't come out with like a perfect show. He said, just come out kind of spend your money in that, right?
Yeah.
He wants to come out and put on a rock show. One thing could go wrong. He says he makes it,
make mistakes. Yeah.
Or he's got, struggle to plug something in. He likes that imperfection.
Yeah, it's like watching the Replacements or the Clash. You watch the Sex Pistols, or you watch a band like Joy Division. When they first were out there, it's the kind of raw nature of seeing a band that's like, okay, to me it's like the whole like there's actually some beauty. I used to watch, like I was watching all these clips of like Neil Young and the Stray Gators, like and Neil Young and Crazy Horse in like 72 and 74. And that's kind of like the heart of, like Neil could go to Nashville and do something real tight, and then he get with Crazy Horse, and he's like, the whole point of Crazy Horse is like, I want to take it to the ditch. That's what he said. He's like, I want to actually go into dissonance, go into not being perfect key, perfect tone, and have that kind of Kurt Cobain honesty. You know, he was like the kind of grandfather of grunge, because he could do it clean, he could do it real perfect, he could do that Crosby, Stills, Nash kind of voice if he wanted to, but if he wanted to be like heavy and punky and a little off kilter, you do something like Tonight's the Night, and that to me is like the brilliance. I can appreciate his really high quality singing voice, that he can do these awesome harmonies, but I do like when he goes out there and just like kills it. You know?
Absolutely. I think a lot of our sound team, really pretty, well thought out. Nice and clean. We like to just get raw and
raucous. You know, it's that kind of grunge thing. You know, I think at every age you have to come back to that, because you had like punk, and then you got new wave, new romantic, and then you had the glam rock bands, and then Kurt Cobain was like a repudiation of that a little bit. Like, let's bring some raw power back, and then you got Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots and all those bands brought back, this kind of like raw. And I think every age has to have the people to cut through and say, you know what, we got to get rid of all this other stuff and kind of get back to the elemental parts of music, which are more honest. It's not that I don't unappreciate somebody like a David Bowie. I mean, Bowie was like a really genius in that he could do that theater, and he could have all this stage presence and all these characters and stuff, but it still felt authentic. And then it's like you don't always get somebody like a Bowie who actually figures out how to bridge that in the right way, in a way that still felt honest. Even though it's just all this other stuff on it, it felt like, okay, well, he really believes in what he's doing. And so it felt like it wasn't just a show, he actually believes he's Ziggy. He believes he's Aladdin Sane. He actually got into it like an actor. So, he's a big influence on Brian Eno. I always think about him as being a keyboard player. I'm always thinking about like what Eno and him did in the Berlin, a lot of that stuff, the experimental stuff. But you guys, so what's the next step beyond Countless Wasted Days? Are you going to really just focus on pushing this project, or are you already thinking about like the next one?
No, we're still pretty aggressive on this one. Just really getting it out. We didn't really push it on first record too much. Put it out and run. But this one, we're really proud of it. We want as many people to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we're just in live.
Mm-hmm.
Want to get back at it now.
Well, you got 2 albums worth of material to play, plus wherever backlog you have. So when you go to do a show, are you going to focus more on this record because that's where you are, where your head's at, or you pull some stuff from the other record?
I think we'll probably be focusing on this one. Mostly we're just going to raw and we saw writing that.
Mm-hmm.
A good one-to-one. What you hear on the record? New stuff. We played a lot of the stuff on the first. A lot. We played it a lot before it even came out and after. So we're trying to just kind of move forward. And just grow our catalog of music. Because we got the album. Plus maybe a couple more.
Yeah.
So we want to we want to grow. We want to have.
Yeah, I get it. What I like about touring is a lot of times when I do shows, when I would go to New York and Boston, it would always live playing would trigger me to write new songs. The live experience is like that's. I'd be playing my set list, but out of the set list, I might have found some groove I did, as part of the show, and it's, hey, that's an idea, and that kind of triggered. And a lot of bands are kind of famous for taking their tours and actually having that drive a whole project. Do you guys like thinking like a tape in your stuff so you can capture what you do on stage? Do you guys do that?
Nick records it on his phone. Rehearsals too. Story stuff, playing. But I also like to see there's different tunes and
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll kind of take my show.
Mm-hmm.
You like the show. I'm a big fan of playing. So I try to do well. Like this might be younger people. We're gonna be these guys might have more heavy music. Or there's gonna be older crowd here. Maybe do it a little light.
Yeah. So you get it more jazzy. Like you could go more fusion with an older crowd. You can maybe pump it up and give it a little harder edge. Knock the tempo up. If you see a bunch of young people, they want to get into like head knocking or like more interaction. Where the older crowd, my age, we're like, okay, well, I actually like it. You guys go 20 minutes on one song.
Yeah.
I'm vibing to that. Yeah.
Sometimes the song is Mr. Heavy. So I personally assume that older people might not like his head. But we have an older band. And that's her favorite song.
Yeah, well, some of us older people, we were in the Zeppelin and in the Hendrix, so we can get pretty hard.
I know. I got stuff. But again, I'm a feeling so.
Yeah, it's kind of like that's the cool thing about live playing is you read the crowd. You can kind of feel when something's hitting, when it's not hitting, and you can make an adjustment. And that's
Like something live. We're like okay, the crowd kind of we're losing. We'll kind of mess with it. Be like, okay, let me fix this, or let's make it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
We're always paying attention. We're very all that.
Yeah, I was watching this documentary on Frank Zappa, and he was like famous for like taping all the Mother's Intervention and all his like concerts. He's like he have all these. Wife was saying he had all these reels of like every concert he ever did, right? And he would just go through them, and then he's like, "Well, here's a song," and he would take a bit from one reel, from another one, and something from the studio, and then he actually start making all these new projects. And his wife was saying, well, he's got all these projects all over the floor, and he's just like cutting and splicing things. And it's like, yeah, that's a song, that's an idea, and they'd start working on two things at once because he's a total crazy genius. But I think it's cool, when you're a band to kind of have your archive of what you've been doing, and you once in a while you review it and then say, hey, maybe something we did 2 years ago didn't work. But now where we are in our headspace, now we can get it to work,
Oh yeah. And like I said, because we're always switching stuff. Sometimes we'll go to the cell phone archive, and I won't even remember like a lot of that. Like, I don't remember doing that. We'll set up. We'll play the set once maybe even, and then play like that. So over the years. You can't remember them all.
Yeah.
Back and
it's just cool to kind of go through, your own personal library. I'm always going back and looking at stuff that I did or that thought that didn't work. Sometimes this is quick, like just EQing it different. Running my stuff and then suddenly saying, I ran it through this way, and now if I change it, it significantly changed it. And like, oh, now I'm going to overdub something on top of it and change it, and then boom, I'm off into another world, like my modular sense that could get me kind of going crazy. But so you guys, what do you guys feel about what's going on in terms of like I think we talked about before, like streaming versus like physical, like vinyl and tape. Are you guys thinking of maybe making a vinyl or a tape for this project, or because the way streaming is, way artists are compensated, are you guys thinking about like merch and stuff to go with this project?
Yeah, so we have some shirts out that we already have that are available. We're in the CDs made. So we're gonna have those in a few weeks.
Cool.
We'll be selling all that in the Bandcamp. And they'll be available at our shows. I personally think that it's good to have both streaming and
Yeah.
We got vinyl for our first record.
yeah. And we are putting this one on vinyl. It's such a process.
Yeah, it takes a while. I mean, I was trying. I'm still working on a project, but I'm kind of too crazy. It's like I wanted to do like a 3 vinyl record because I got this big like double record that I wanted to put on vinyl because I thought that like if I put all this stuff with the lyric sheet, and I had this artist that I was working with in Germany, this guy named Chernobello, and he had done all this really like MC Escher type psychedelic work that's all black and white. So if you've seen my work, I do a lot of psychedelic weird stuff, and I actually worked with this guy Chernobello, and we had all this stuff, and we have this. We've still been working on this project. It's just kind of crazy, and I gotta self fund it, and the pandemic came, so it's like it's on the shelf, and I'm still working on it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of like physical items for your fans because I think that connects with the audience. Because when even if you have a T-shirt, you have a poster, you have a button, you got a cassette, your CD, that it has a way to pull your fan in and get them to kind of get into your brand. Not that you're selling like a Coca-Cola, but you're selling your band. You're trying to get people to get into you, and I think that gives a way to really pull somebody in when you have stuff like that.
So the band's like dropped the ball with that. Like you said, you had a bring, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. Once we got the album, this is cool. We got to here. One was this, right? Countless wasted days where we were promoting it, but 30 days left until the album. Don't waste them.
Yeah, I saw you guys were running like a really cool marketing plan that was tied to the idea of the wasted days, and I like that you guys had that theme, and I saw it, on Instagram, which is like, I think it's like the Instagram is probably like the best like social media site for musicians. I mean, it's where I get all my guests from for the last 2 years.
I've underestimated Instagram because I've realized more and more that a lot of our connections coming from Instagram. And then as you mentioned before, Bandcamp talk. We're not Bandcamp because it's huge. So we're really glad we joined.
Yeah, I mean the merchandising opportunities on Bandcamp for like putting together like CDs and T-shirts is just really good, and it just has a better artist compensation model than some of these other places. Yeah, so it's like we want to get not that it's all about the money, but it's like it's about fairness. It's about like being able to get something to the fan at a reasonable rate that's not going to kill you.
And it's a little more uncommon, like you're talking about before. Spotify, where it might just shuffle your stuff or throw it on a it kind of has down right to start track one.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just physically looking at a lyric sheet or looking at the artwork. I mean, I grew up
that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up picking up like a Led Zeppelin record and taking a spinning wheel and spinning it around and looking at the little cutouts and
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I mean, I actually picked that up. My brother, we went to like a mall and actually in the 70s picked that up, and we were like, this is so cool. And we were like, we just like sat down in the basement and we're like, this is it. We got all our friends that come over and we're kind of doing what we do in a basement. But it's just that type of headspace that we would sit there and we really appreciated like Floyd and Zepp and all those big bands because it was like my parents didn't appreciate it, but
At the time, I mean, I think the decade of I'm sorry, like the best music and like an album was an adventure. I can imagine how it was back in the days where you go to the record, you get a record, you go in the basement, all your friends on the church game, all right. We still kind of do that.
Yeah.
And our stuff like.
Well, see, yeah, I mean, my daughter, she's 20, and her friends are all into vinyl, and they're like really into like a lot of like sub pop underground bands and picking up the vinyl and getting the T-shirts. My daughter, like, I kind of put it into her head that, like, don't just stream the band you love. If you love a band, she'll buy the shirt, she'll buy the buttons, she'll buy the whatever they're doing, right? And she's totally like into it. And she got a vinyl player, and now she's like, okay, I want a hi-fi stereo, kind of like what you had in the 70s. It's like, well, yeah, what did you find? She showed me something that was like, really? She was like, something like $3,000 machine. I'm like, okay, I guess you're really into it. It's like you're that much into it, and I said, I guess you are. So okay. She went the tube amps and like all this really crazy, but she's into it. And I said, well, if you're into it that much and you really like it and you're building up your collections, okay, fine. You're a good student. You do getting straight A's, okay, fine. Because like you're cool, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So, but I just thought it was cool that she thought that it's important to actually support the band that she likes. So she actually does it.
Yeah, totally. Back to like Jack White. He says, you don't have that piece of music, you own it on, vinyl. Just you gotta introduce the real thing. I mean, Jack White's a big reason of why, vinyl.
Yeah, the third man. I mean, he brought it back. I mean, he's got his third man operation in Nashville, and he's like being an archivist with all this old stuff, and then putting new stuff out. And
he's always finding the ways. Music with vinyl, exciting stuff. I take a lot after that. Creative marketing, making things new, exciting again. And that's why we listening party. Oh my God, that artist I like where we had all of our close friends listen to the album. This is really nice, and.
Well, I think music, people forget music is about like community. Like I think like I grew up with the Woodstock generation. I mean, I went to the second Woodstock. I didn't get to go to the first one. I'm totally enamored. I was the generation that was so enamored with it that we went and had the second one. But the whole idea is this. You think about the Deadheads. You think about like the guys who followed the Who and people who are really. The 5 guys who follow the Allman Brothers, and I was one of those guys following the Allman Brothers wherever they went. But it was this whole thing that it's like it's a scene, it's a community, and it's like it's a way of life, and it's like music isn't just like, oh, it's just a playlist, and I got 20 different bands that aren't connected, and I don't even know anything other than their one song.
Right.
And
then that's how again, it's that 15 second catchy song, whatever. I don't even listen to this person's whole album, but like community part of it is what draws me to the death. Was because I saw them listening to it and around it. It was so welcoming, so cool, and we try to do.
Yeah, I think what's interesting today is you do see it coming back, like in the kind of music I'm into, the Euro rack, analog synth type of thing. We have whole communities of guys that do shows that do these really esoteric, like Genesis type of shows, and we're just we're doing 20-minute long songs, and we're like deep into our Moogs and doing all this stuff. But there's a whole scene that's into that. There's a whole scene that's like, okay, I've got a Moog. I've got this like a Rhodes piano, and I got a Fairchild, Fairlight or something, and people are just like really into those old instruments, and they're into the modular stuff, and there's this whole scene. And it's scene, I've run into artists, through online in the Netherlands, in Australia, in Berlin, in Spain, that are really hardcore into deep electronic music. And in that scene, they're very passionate about what they're into, and they want to hear everybody's project, and everybody's like kind of working with each other. It's kind of like, a hippie scene. It's a different type of scene, but it's just cool to see. Like in Chicago, do you guys have a scene of other bands like yourselves that kind of support each other, like a collective?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we got a lot of that are another band. We'll put each other on each other's, create each other. A lot of our people overlapping. Yeah. We create a lot of this friends, and create community. They'll say, oh, with this band or whatever. And then a lot of friend groups overlap. So we try to help each other out. There's definitely community.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the story of Sub Pop. If you think about the whole Sub Pop thing, the Nirvana came out of, it was just underground and it suddenly blew up. And
all the metal bands.
Yeah, it's like even like the metal band scene in LA with all the hair bands that kind of blew up, and that was the scene. Like from time to time, you get these scenes that happen where you get these fun foundational bands, and then they all kind of align around them. And you get you get record labels like IRS and Sub Pop, and they have like this kind of feel for that type of, genre. So each genre gets like labels associated with them, or they get scenes. Today less label, it's more like everybody's in a collective, and the collective thing I think is what's really pushing the music, and I think is going to be the new model for the future. Is to really do it yourself, but then align with other people with the same attitude. And then, then also align with filmmakers and artists and, entrepreneurs who can, create other things to go with your work. And then that creates like the whole new scene. And that's kind of what we're trying to, with this podcast, we've been kind of pushing an idea for the future that every single band that's ever been on this podcast, that we want to create some kind of like collective event. Whether it's online or whether it's like physically somewhere, find a way to get a bunch of the bands we've talked to and do a show. And to me, it makes sense because this is a community within this podcast. So then if we take all of our guests with all these diverse, it would be like a big festival. And we could we could do an online version of it if we can't get it into a real version, and try to get some funding for that. But yeah, we're working, seeing if we can put something together for the future. And so we think that, because we feel that that's what music needs. We need to have more community, to do that.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad I had you guys on this program. This is like streaming live on my Facebook. We will save it. It's going to save there, and then we're going to convert it to Anchor in our old form, where it will go out as an audio only on all the platforms we're on there, like Spotify and Apple Podcast and all that. So we'll send you that once that's ready. But this is immediately on on the Facebook. You see streaming on below, and then we're going to push it to YouTube as well. And it's got your link on it permanently, so people will see that when they see the video. So that's cool. And yeah, we're glad to talk to you guys. When do you guys have a new project or have something else you want to get into? We want to save the rest of the record so we don't just play it, but we wanted to give people a picture of it, which what we did. And we thank you for being on the program.
No problem. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, man.